Hey guys, welcome back to another sports stuff video. Today, we'll be talking about the Cleveland Browns and their offseason plan to get back on a winning pace. So if you guys do enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. This is part 2 of 32 of fixing every NFL team, starting from pick 1 all the way to pick 32 this offseason. So if you guys enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into the video. So we're starting off with negative $23 million in cap space, so cuts and or trades. So I want to start this video off very simply. Deshaun Watson tore his Achilles again, so we do not know what that is going to mean for 2025. Because if they find out that Deshaun Watson, for example, was not wearing a walking boot and let's say was running a mile a day, that is against, obviously, the doctor's health warnings of, hey, don't take your boot off and don't run a mile a day. Or don't do don't do calf raises because that can extend the Achilles and re-tear it. If he was doing that outside of the fields, outside of the team's training center, and the team said don't do it and he did it anyway, that voids his contract. All of his money can get voided. So we are not going to be doing that. We're going to go off the basis that Deshaun Watson followed everything correctly. He's just going to be injured. So that's what we're going to follow because that is going to be the most basic way to do this video. So cuts or trades at negative $23 million. Jack Conklin, unfortunately, I think has to be the first domino to fall. This past season, Jack had 66 PFF grade, 68 pass blocking, 60 run blocking. He's been a solid tackle, just injury prone for the Browns. This year, he was overall healthy. I think he played like 80% of the snaps this year. Really solid this year. He's a two-time All-Pro in his career. He started his career in Tennessee, so I think the most obvious choice is to trade Jack Conklin back to Tennessee, where he reunites with Bill Callahan, the offensive line coach that turned him into a two-time All-Pro. I just think Jack Conklin, he needs a new scenery. Obviously, the Browns need to get younger at the offensive line, need to get better, need to get cheaper, and Jack Conklin is a good enough tackle that I think teams are going to want him. So Tennessee needs tackles. Jack Conklin, former Tennessee Titan. Bill Callahan is there. He knows Jack Conklin. Jack Conklin knows how Bill wants to run an offensive line, sorry. So I decided let's trade Jack Conklin to Tennessee, save us $14.6 million in the cap space this season, and we get a 4th round pick. It is not 102. It is 119. So their 2025 4th round pick, number 119 overall. 102 is the first pick in the 4th round. We are getting, I think, like the 15th or 18th pick in the 4th round. So I want to make that distinction, and that is the pick we're going with. But yeah, Jack Conklin, thank you for your services, but they've got to get younger. They got to get cheaper. You got to move forward. Next is going to be Greg Newsome. Greg this past season had 25 tackles, 1 interception, and 120 passer rating allowed when targeted. Greg did have a fall off this past season, but I think he's still a good corner. I like Greg Newsome. I don't want to trade him, but I think the way how the money's going to work out, the way that the roster is working out, we're not going to be carrying Greg Newsome next season. He's still a starting level cornerback. I think a lot of teams in the NFL would love to have Greg Newsome as their boundary corner or even as their slot corner. Love the dude, just can't afford him. Again, he could be a boundary or a slot corner, but you're not trading for Greg Newsome and paying him money to be a slot corner. I think Greg Newsome, like his rookie season, slots back out to outside boundary corner and plays well. So I'm trading him to Green Bay, who was just eliminated from the playoffs today. I think they need a boundary corner opposite of Jair Alexander, or even in replacement of Jair Alexander, who is just continuously unhealthy and always hurt. So Green Bay trades us a 2025 4th round pick, number 125, and a future 3rd round pick for Greg Newsome, the former top 25 pick in the 2021 NFL draft. Again, Greg, I like Greg Newsome. I'll make sure it's very known. I'm not trading him because I hate him. I am trading him because the money doesn't work out, and we can capitalize on his 5th-year deal. He's now on his 5th year of his 5th-year deal. He'll be entering in the 2025 season. So it's a 1-year guaranteed contract. He can go to a team, ball out, get an extension, or go to a team, and they get a compensatory pick the following season. So next, we have Juan Thornhill, the safety from the Kansas City Chiefs we signed 2 years ago. Juan had 39 tackles, 0 interceptions, and 137 passer rating allowed when targeted. He's not the best coverage safety. In fact, he's actually bottom 12 when it comes to coverage grade. But to me, he's still a really solid run support guy. He's not always in the box, but when he is helping in the run defense, he's pretty stellar still. Veteran Super Bowl winner. I think a lot of teams would want that. But I also wouldn't be shocked if he had even more of a solid market than I'm expecting. But I think the team that he needs to go to is Kansas City. Their secondary is very depleted when it comes to the safety position. So I'm going to be trading him for a Kansas City 2026 fifth. So now I'm going to pick in this year's draft. It's a pick in next year's draft that maybe it's a 6th round pick based off playing time or whatever. But I think Juan Thornhill goes back to the Chiefs, who need more help in the run defense and more help in the secondary. And we get a future 5th round pick. It means nothing, but we get him off the team. We save ourselves $3.4 million in cap space. Next, we have Shelby Harris, who I will be cutting. Shelby had 21 tackles, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. I still think he's a solid veteran defensive tackle, but I just don't see him part of the Browns anymore. You know, we have Jaquan Briggs, we have Mike Hall, we have Dalvin Tomlinson. I fully expect us to draft someone very early in the draft at D tackle. So I just don't see him in the rotation moving forward. I think we're moving towards a younger core. He can go somewhere else and compete for a Super Bowl, which is what he was trying to do when he first came to Cleveland. It's just that's not what we're going to be doing next year. I don't see us as a Super Bowl contender next year. I see us as a playoff contender, but I don't think we have that Super Bowl aspiration next year. He deserves, and he's trying to go and get another one before he retires. So we cut him, saved $2.3 million. Then here's my restructures. Again, I'm doing this because I'm not expecting Deshaun Watson to be cut and his contract void. We get all this money back in cap space. So I'm just doing a restructure. So 35.7 from Deshaun, 9.1 from Denzel, and 2.9 from Myles. That is $48 million we get back in the cap space, making us positive $68 million. So this team that needs a lot of work is now positive $68 million in the cap space. But first, we're going to go for some re-signings on our own team. So Elijah Moore is going to be my first re-signing. 61 receptions, 538 yards, and a touchdown. He's not a great starting slot wide receiver. When we traded for him, we definitely were expecting more out of him, but obviously it just hasn't happened. I see him more as a wide receiver 4. I know that's tough, but I think having a really good wide receiver 4 is something that a lot of NFL teams want. If you look at the Eagles, right? They have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and then they have a bunch of guys behind them that can make catches and make plays. Look at the Commanders, right? They have a wide receiver 1 and a bunch of wide receiver 3s and 4s playing wide receiver 2. And they're all collectively making up for that gap. So I do think that there is a role for Elijah Moore in this offense as that chain mover. The front office and the coaching staff seem to like him. That's why they traded for him, and they've been playing him as a starter the last 2 years. I do see him sticking around as that chain mover possession receiver who can get 3 catches a game for 40 yards, right? Just as a guy who's consistently playing solidly. So I gave him a 2-year, $7.5 million contract, $5 million guaranteed. That is 66% guaranteed, right around where I want to be towards the top end of that number. But that's exactly where I think Elijah Moore, that's the number. I don't want to go any higher than this. If he gets more in the open market, let him go and let him take it. Next, we have Devin Bush. 50 tackles, 1 sack, and 24 run stops this past season. Surprisingly, a great pickup, right? I'll say it. I didn't think he was going to be this good. He really revived his NFL career this season. You know, when it went from the Steelers to the Seahawks, was really poor, really bad player. This was the 1-year flyer of him trying to, stay in the NFL. But I can see him becoming a key piece of this linebacker core. Imagine him next to JOK, the run defense we're going to have the linebacker position. I think it's really solid, really something that you want to look forward to. He won't be too expensive to retain. Again, if it's over this number, I don't feel comfortable paying him that. I think $6 million, average out to $6 million a year for someone who gets 25 run stops a year. That's really good because in the first 2 downs he can play absolutely. 3rd down and short, he's playing. Goal line, he's playing. He can play well. He's really good at getting back into the backfield. I'm very shocked at how well Devin Bush played this year. I would not be mad if this is the type of number we give Devin Bush. Again, 2 years, $12 million, $8 million guaranteed, 66%. Again, almost a little bit above what I want, but it's what I think he's going to get to stay on this piss poor team. Next, we have Nick Chubb. 332 yards, 3 touchdowns. Honestly, I don't give a crap. He could have had 1 yard, negative 3 touchdowns. I don't care. He is not leaving Cleveland. He will die a Cleveland Browns legend and on the team. He can recover, come back with a better group, be over 2 years since he tore his ACL, and obviously he did break his foot, but breaking a foot is nowhere near as bad as tearing your ACL. It's usually like a 4 or 5 week recovery period for broken foot in the NFL. The only reason he didn't play in 2024 because we sucked, right? He could have played the final week of the season and into the playoffs, but obviously we put him on IR. He wasn't doing that. So I'm giving him a 2-year, $10 million deal, $10 million guaranteed. I am fully guaranteeing this deal because you don't mess with franchise players, right? There are guys that you don't talk about money with. Whatever they want, you give them. You just give them the money, because I don't see a world where Nick Chubb is not on the Browns. The fans would revolt. It would be awful. Like, I don't think you understand. People's heads would be rolling. So you give him 3 void years, spread that money out. The number never goes above 5.5, and you fully guarantee the contract. He plays up the rest of his career on the Browns, and you can spread the money around. And again, he'd be a guy that you restructure next year. Like, he will do whatever it takes to stay on the Browns, and the Browns need to do the exact same of keeping him on the team. So yeah, 2 years, $10 million, fully guaranteed. Then guys I would retain, again, I didn't really do this for the Titans, because the Titans are so bad that I don't think there's a lot of people that were for fringe roster guys that you would want to keep. But all of these guys, I think, are worth retaining on a bad roster. James Hudson, he's a solid backup, can be a swing tackle or even a stopgap starter. He's been asked to start multiple times in his career, and every time he plays pretty solid. So 1 year, $2 million, fully guaranteed. He's making the roster. Same with Nick Harris. He can compete for the starter role over Ethan Pochik. Whoever wins, congratulations. But I think he's actually going to refill his role as a fullback since we returned to Kevin Stefanski's system. When Joe Flacco was at quarterback with Jerome Ford, we saw Nick Harris playing fullback, and I think that's what we're going to go back to, is Ethan Pochik starter, Nick Harris as the fullback, and opening up lanes for Jerome Ford, Nick Chubb, and whatever running back you want to draft. So 1 year, $2 million. Same thing for D'Anthony Bell. He's a good rotation safety. He's really good on special teams too. 1 year, $2 million, fully guaranteed. Then, guys I would also retain are James Houston, the pass rusher from the Lions that we signed. He's not an awful pass rusher. We claimed him from the Zadarius Smith trade to Detroit. You know, he's been okay. He was fine in Detroit as well. I'm fine giving him a 1 year, $2 million deal to come back. I see him making the roster as well, because we have some pass rushers that, you know, like Isaiah Thomas, for example. James Houston is better than. Just straight up. He's better than Isaiah Thomas. So 1 year, $2 million. Then we'll be tendering Winston Reed. He's a good depth linebacker. He was awesome on special teams this year. Only $1 million to tender. And then Blake Whiteheart. He's proven to be a solid depth tight end. Okay at receiving. Okay at blocking. You know, again, for $1 million, every team is retaining their exclusive rights free agents. Every single team is going to be tendering them. If you can get a roster guy for $1 million, you're doing it. Then you're entering free agency at $53 million. That is a very good number to be entering free agency at. So, who is the first free agent we go after? So, I'm going to believe all the smoke. I do fully believe that the Browns are going to be targeting Kirk Cousins, and I do not believe the smoke that the Falcons are going to be keeping him as the backup. I don't believe it. I think that's just a leverage play. Kirk Cousins this past season had 3,500 yards, 18 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. He has familiarity with Kevin's system. He had a great season with him in 2019 where he went 3,600 yards, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. But again, all this depends on what Atlanta is really going to do. They're saying they're not going to cut him. I fully believe it is a leverage play that they fully intend on cutting him, but they want to see what they can get in a trade, right? They might be like, hey, trade us a 4th round pick or a 3rd round pick. You can have Kirk Cousins. I don't believe it's going to happen. I don't believe it. No one wants to trade enough draft capital to get Kirk Cousins, and I just think they're going to end up cutting him, and they're going to say, you know what? Let's spend this money elsewhere. So Kirk Cousins, here's his contract right now. So either the top one is what his contract is supposed to be for the next 3 years. Only 1 year fully guaranteed left. So after that 1 year, you can cut him and get all your money back in the cap. Or he gets cut by the Falcons and it's $1.5 million. I'm going off the basis that I fully believe he is going to be cut by the Falcons. I think it's gonna be later in the cycle, right? It might be the very last day before free agency starts that Kirk Cousins gets cut. Like, I don't think it's gonna be very quickly. I don't think at the end of the season, let's say the Lions win the Super Bowl. It's not gonna be the very next day Kirk Cousins is cut. No, this is gonna linger until the day before free agency, where they cannot get a deal done and they cut him, because they're gonna give him a, be nice and say, you know what, Kirk, thank you for what you did for us. You're a veteran. We're gonna let you get cut and go and sign somewhere. That's what I fully believe is going to happen. But if you did want to trade for him, it's only $27.5 million in guaranteed money for 1 year. You cut him after 1 year, and boom, you get all that money back. But I still believe they're going to cut him, and you'll get him for $1.5 million. So this is the number that I'm signing him for. It's $1.5 million. Next, we have Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby this past season had 826 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He wasn't awful for New England. They just had a young quarterback sitting behind him. They were like 0-2, 0-3. So they were like, you know what? If we're gonna lose anyway, or no, they were 1-2, 1-3 because they beat the Bengals. They're like, you know what? If we're gonna lose anyway, let's just have Drake May out there and develop. So he was good with us in 2022 as well. I will always remember him beating Brady. Me, my dad, and my brother were all there at that game where Nick Chubb scored a touchdown, beat Tom Brady. We'll never forget it. We will never forget it. It was one of the best Browns moments of my life. It's probably right behind us making the playoffs with Joe Flacco. But I do see the Browns carrying 4 quarterbacks next year. That'd be Kirk, Jacoby, a rookie, and Deshaun Watson. Where Watson will be on the physically unable to perform list. He'll be on the PUP list, and we won't see him all season. We'll cut him March 1st of 2026, no matter what. But it's gonna be Kirk, Jacoby, and a rookie. I can see Jacoby competing to start, but I think more than likely Jacoby's a backup. The rookie will be inactive every week as the third emergency quarterback, and Kirk is a starter. 1 year, $4.5 million. I think that's a good number to get Jacoby on with Kirk Cousins. So now the quarterback room for the Browns would be Kirk Cousins, Jacoby Brissett, a rookie, with Deshaun Watson on the PUP list, not playing all season. I did also cut DTR. I forgot to put that. I cut DTR. I don't think it was a big enough thing to mention because it negated like $500,000. So it wasn't that big of a deal. Next, I'm going to go for Jordan Poyer at safety. This past season had 70 tackles, 0 interceptions with 16 run stops. I think he's still a solid starting safety. He did start his career in Cleveland, so there is some connections there for a franchise to a player. I think he'd also return to Buffalo, but I think Buffalo's safeties are actually playing pretty well this year, so maybe they don't do that. But they did re-sign Micah Hyde to the practice squad, and he's been playing spot minutes for them for the Buffalo Bills. So maybe Jordan Poyer does the same thing. But I see Jordan Poyer as the Rodney McLeod replacement who just retired after Week 18. So you have 2 openings from Rodney McLeod leaving and trading Juan Thornhill. I think Jordan Poyer can come in, slot in as that 4th safety, where you have him, Grant Delpit, D'Anthony Bell, and Ronnie Hickman. That's your 4 safeties. That's the future at that position for 2025. 1 year, $3 million, fully guarantee it. Next, we have Alaric Jackson to be our starting left tackle. Alaric Jackson this past season had 78 PFF, 80 pass blocking, 76 run blocking. To me, he's one of the best underrated left tackles in the game. He beat out Joseph Noteboom this year, which is very prevalent because I like Joseph Noteboom, who's also a free agent. But I think there's a really high chance that Alaric Jackson walks and Joseph Noteboom returns to the Rams. But if it is the other way around, I'm fine signing Joseph Noteboom as well. But I think Joseph Noteboom will end up staying in Los Angeles to save some money, and then Alaric Jackson will walk. So might be able to steal him for a bargain, might not. To me, I wouldn't go over this contract for a lineman right now. We are a team that, with Deshaun Watson's contract still hanging over our head, you got to be careful when you sign linemen, especially guys that are only good for 2 years. You know, they don't have 4 years of work under their belt. Alaric Jackson, though, I'm willing to bet the money that for this contract, this is what I would want to do. A 3-year, $36 million deal, $20 million guaranteed. That's 55% million guaranteed. I'm willing to go all the way up to 70% guaranteed. Maybe do 10.6 the first year, 12.1 the second, go all the way up to $5 million on the 3rd year. So it's basically a 2-year fully guaranteed contract with a team option on the 3rd. But Alaric Jackson, I like it. He's good size. He's played really well in Los Angeles for a team that throws the ball a lot. There's a lot of play action off Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. I think he'd be really good for the Browns are trying to do, and that's the future of the left tackle position. Then next, we signed Aaron Banks from the San Francisco 49ers. This past season, had a 65 PFF grade, 60 run blocking, 69 pass blocking. He's been a solid guard since drafted, who I was very high on him coming out. He was one of my guys I thought were really, going to impress. And he's been pretty solid. He's been a starting guard since drafted to San Francisco. I think he fits our system very well, obviously, with that, run heavy, then you play off the run system that Shanahan runs. You can replace Bitonio if he does indeed retire. I think there's a very high chance that Joel Bitonio does retire, but I think there's also a small chance he comes back. If not, you don't sign Aaron Banks. But if he does retire, you sign Aaron Banks. You slot him in at left guard for only 2 years, $14 million, $10.5 million guaranteed at 75%. That's a very good bargain contract for a guard. I don't see, again, same thing when I said with Alaric Jackson. When it comes to left guard, I'm not going over this number. $6 million a year, or I guess that'd be $7 million averaged out per year. That is the highest I'm willing to go for a starting guard. I'm not going any higher in this draft, in this free agency period, because there's not an A+ guard that I think the Browns have a chance at signing. So Aaron Banks is the dude I think can come in on a valued contract, an outperformance contract. And again, if we want to move on after 1 year because Zach Zinter or a guy that we draft this season overperforms, awesome. Or you keep Aaron Banks, let the guy develop for 2 years and they start over in 3 years. Whatever you want to do. But yeah, left tackle now goes Alaric Jackson, Aaron Banks, Ethan Pochik, Wyatt Teller, DeJuan Jones at right tackle. That'd be the new remade offensive line. And that's pretty solid. Then at wide receiver, I do want to sign one vet wide receiver out of this free agency class. As much as I think Devontae Adams is on the table, I'm going to be more realistic, right? And I'm going to go Brandon Cooks. So Brandon Cooks this past season had 26 receptions, 260 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I think he's a solid vet wide receiver for our young core. Former number 1 wide receiver for like 5 different teams. He can come in, give us a real safety valve as a dude who every single play, you know you can throw the ball to and just get an easy catch. Lots of playoff experience, has even played in a Super Bowl as well. So I think Brandon Cooks absolutely is a guy that I would want on the Cleveland Browns to bring a veteran presence to his wide receiver core, and we can pay him handsomely. I can easily pay him very handsomely because the Jerry Jeudy contract is a bargain, and he moved off the Amari Cooper $20 million. This is a great, bargain guy for Brandon Cooks. 2 years, $13.5 million, 8.75 guaranteed. That is 65% guaranteed. Right on the dot, what I would do. Right on the dot. That's what I want when it comes to guaranteed money. So the Browns still have $27 million when it comes to draft. To what am I saying? To cap space. As I say, my golden number is $9 million for your draft picks. So the team would have $18 million to go out, maybe get another linebacker, maybe get a better safety, maybe get a D tackle or a defensive end to pair with Myles Garrett, right? Maybe Khalil Mack, 1 year, $15 million or something like that. But yeah, I'm willing to sit on this $27 million, let it roll over in cap space like the Browns do every single season. Just let it roll over into the next year. So what I do with the draft, I do this. So lots of trades going on, right? I decided if I'm Andrew Berry, so let me really break down what I want to do. Okay, so Myles Garrett has said, I want to know the vision of this team, and if I don't like the vision, I'm going to be requesting out. Once Myles Garrett said that, Denzel Ward said, I'm not going to meet with the front office, but I'm damn sure going to look over Myles Garrett's shoulder, see the plan, and go do what he does. Then Joel Bitonio said the exact same thing. So this team knows that they need to get on their ass and go out and make good signings, good trades, and good draft picks. So if I'm the Cleveland Browns, I am going to be so active during the draft. So here's what I'm going to do. At number 2 overall, I'm trading back from number 2 to number 6 with the Raiders. I want 2 firsts, 2 thirds, and Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer is now expendable for the Raiders. You have Brock Bowers, who is a generational tight end. You want to get as many minutes as you can for Brock Bowers, as many targets. Michael Mayer is now expendable, right? They're not going to run 12 personnel if it comes down to one of the guys I've said they can sign. Because I don't think they're getting Ben Johnson. So Michael Mayer is now expendable. Instead of 2 firsts, a second, and 2 thirds or something like that, you go 2 firsts, 2 thirds, and a player in Michael Mayer. So you now have David Njoku and Michael Mayer at tight end. Great. A-plus trade. Then at number 6, you either grab Mason Graham or Abdul Carter. And if those 2 guys aren't available, you go Will Campbell or Ashton Janty. Those are the 4 players that you're targeting at number 6. It goes Abdul Carter number 1, Mason Graham number 2, Will Campbell number 3, Ashton Janty number 4. So in this mock draft, Mason Graham was available. Abdul Carter got drafted at number 5 by the Jaguars. So at number 6, we grab Mason Graham. We now have a great defensive line so far. We have Myles Garrett, Mike Hall, Jaquan Briggs, Mason Graham, Dalvin Tomlinson, Isaiah McGuire, and all the depth pieces at defensive end. That's an A-plus pick. Mason Graham, best interior defensive lineman. He's a blue chip prospect. Then I decide, wait a minute, I don't want to be done on the defensive line. I want to guarantee that Myles Garrett is going to have the easiest time of his life. So I'm going to trade up from number 33 to number 18 and grab Jack Sawyer. We have so many 3rd round picks from our different trades and drafts we've done. So from number 33, number 68, and 167, we trade up from 33 to 18 and we grab Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer, he's not Abdul Carter, he's not Michael Williams, but he's right there in that second tier of pass rusher in my opinion. We obviously see in the playoffs, he is really turning on when the brights are the lightest. He is amazing. We saw him cause a forced fumble, grab the ball, run 90 yards down the field, and score a touchdown to end Texas's season. Jack Sawyer, when the brights are lightest, he turns it on. Him and Myles Garrett would be really good together if this is the type of thing that we can pull off, right? So we move up, what is that? 15 spots, and I went actually to the draft pick value chart, and I made sure all these trades work out, by the way. I want to make sure that's known. I made sure each of these trades work out. So 67, so 33, 68, and 167 to move up back into the first round and grab Jack Sawyer at 18. So now the defensive line is Myles Garrett, Mason Graham, Dalvin Tomlinson, Jack Sawyer, with Isaiah McGuire, Mike Hall, Jaquan Briggs, and a bunch of guys at that fourth defensive end spot. That is how you tell Myles Garrett, we are trying to win it all this year. We are trying to build around you and try to build the best defense we can. Then you let the draft go, right? Pick 29 goes. You go, oh my God, Jalen Milroe is still on the board. He has fallen all the way down to 30. Andrew Berry has connections with the Philadelphia Eagles. When Andrew Berry left Cleveland the first time, he went to Howie Roseman's front office and was the assistant GM to Howie Roseman. He then got hired by the Browns. For the first 3 years of Andrew Berry's career, the off-season training was with the Philadelphia Eagles, because off-season training is buddy GMs who know each other, who are friends with each other, who let their teams practice against each other. So Andrew Berry, Howie Roseman, very good friends. I 100% believe that if Andrew Berry in the AFC called Howie Roseman and said, hey, we want to trade up from 67 to 30. We'll throw in our next year's seconds, 6 and 2/7. We want to trade up to number 30. I think Howie Roseman would do it. Not only because they're buddies, not only because Andrew Berry is technically a Howie Roseman spinoff, but also it's the other conference, right? If it was an NFC to NFC, it wouldn't happen. But it's NFC to AFC, right? The Eagles only have 5 draft picks in this year's draft. You give them, what is that? You give them 8 picks total to fill out their roster and say, we'll give you a future second, which, given the Browns, is probably a top 15 pick in the second round. So it's a late first round talent that they'll be drafting, right? It gives them another day 2 pick next year to move up to 30. And then guess what? The Browns draft the quarterback of the future in Jalen Milroe. If this is how day 1 went down, I would say Andrew Berry's a GOAT. You grab Mason Graham, who's a blue chip prospect. Jack Sawyer with a high upside and can play day 1. And Jalen Milroe, who's going to be your third emergency quarterback, who's just going to sit for the first year and learn and develop and next year can play. That is an A+ first round for me. Then you don't draft in the second round at pick 93. Yes, you don't need Harold Fannin Jr., but this is BPA. This is best player available, baby. I thought about going D tackle, the Oregon D tackle who played really well against Ohio State, but unfortunately he had already been drafted. I'm blanking on his name right now. But then I got Harold Fannin Jr. I know Kevin Stefanski wants to run 12 personnel. I think he'd also run a lot of 13 personnel. You now have David Njoku, Michael Mayer, and Harold Fannin Jr. as your 3 tight ends. That is the best tight end room in the NFL. Then at 103, I grabbed Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, the tackle from Florida. He's 6'7", 350, massive body, massive frame. I like him as maybe a developmental project pick. Maybe in the future he can start at left tackle, but if not, he's just a big body dude. He can come in on goal line and maul in the run game. Then with the Jack Conklin pick at 119, I'm drafting Luke Kandra at Cincinnati. Every season he's gotten better, and this season he was a very good right guard. I see him as a potential Wyatt Teller replacement down the line. You have Zach Zinner at left guard. You now have Luke Kandra at right guard, and that is the future of the right guard position if he can develop. Then, with the Greg Newsome trade, 125, I grabbed Kobe Keane from Penn State. He had an amazing postseason run in the college football playoffs. That Notre Dame game made me want to draft Kobe King day 1. Like, he played amazing, really good run stopper, really good in coverage. I think Kobe King's going to go a lot earlier than 125, but if he's available to me at 125, I'm running to the board to draft him. Then at 190, I'm grabbing LaQuindon Jackson, the first running back off my board. I see LaQuindon Jackson as that, push it through the end zone. You're on the 5-yard line. Nick Chubb is gassed. Give it to LaQuindon Jackson. He has a nose for the end zone. Just let him get to the end zone. Jerome Ford's a scat back. Nick Chubb is Nick Chubb. And then Quentin Jackson is a dude that just ram it into the end zone. Kind of like the 2022 Jamal Williams, right? Just give him the red zone carries, and he'll get a touchdown. Theo Weiss Jr. from Missouri, big body, deep threat, right? I think he's 6'3", 225. He was at best 20-plus yards downfield. Cool. I'm fine with that. Let's get Theo Weiss in. We have Jerry Jeudy. We have Cedric Tillman. We have Brandon Cooks. Those guys can be more the possession receiver, 15 to 20 yards downfield. And then Theo Weiss and Cedric Tillman can be the pure deep threats with Jamari Thrash. Then Kobe Bryant was 6'14". Maybe he could be the potential Greg Newsome replacement. I like Kobe Bryant's skills. Probably doesn't even make the team though. We have a very deep cornerback room. Whether it's Myles Harden, Cam Mitchell, Martin Emerson, and then Denzel Ward. Kobe Bryant come in and be that fifth corner. But I think Myles Harden or Cam Mitchell will be that slot corner, and Martin Emerson is that outside corner with Denzel Ward. This would be an A+ draft in my opinion. Purely A+, right? Mason Graham, best D tackle in the class. Jack Sawyer, top 5 edge in the class. Jalen Milroe, the third best quarterback in this class, all in the first round. This would be an A+ draft. But yeah, that is my Cleveland Browns rebuild. I would love to know what you guys are thinking, and what would you do differently? Because to me, if this is how the Browns offseason plays out, right? You get 2 starting level quarterbacks, and Kirk and Jacoby. You have Jalen Milroe as that third quarterback, and then Deshaun on the PUP list, right? You fix your wide receiver issue with Brandon Cooks to where you have a number 1 potential. Honestly, not anymore in this part of his career, but it's a dude who can get first downs. Tight end, you massively, this is definitely a 12-13 personnel team every play now. You fix your run game because now you have more big body tight ends who can help the run game. You invest in the offensive line with Aaron Banks, Alaric Jackson, Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, DeJuan Jones coming back healthy, right? Like, you reinvest in the offensive line. You heavily invest in the defensive line through the draft. JOK comes back healthy. Your secondary maybe takes a step back, but with your defensive line taking a massive step forward, I think your cornerbacks and your safeties will be stagnant when it comes to stats. But yeah, this is what I truly believe the Browns should do. If you guys enjoy, please like, comment, subscribe. Tomorrow or the day after will be who is at number 3, the New York Giants rebuild. So let's get into it. I'm so excited. I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.